Hello and good morning. So today we're going to talk about substrates. And substrates, if you don't know what that is any surface that you create art on. So substrates can include paper, canvases, etc. So today I'm just going to stay focused on canvases because the majority of the people that I work with paint. And so we'll start there, and then of course I can do additional videos down the road. So this information is really based on data that pertains to the fact that I live in Macon, Georgia, and we have two art stores that are mostly accessible to us, which is Michael's and Hobby Lobby. We can order things, but we don't really have a lot of accessibility, so you want to make decisions based on who you're learning from and what's available for you. This information is mostly pertinent to people that I teach in my area, but I'm trying to kind of include a variety of information in case you want to order online or find art stores as well. So, with all that being said, traditionally, the thing that is most available to us is what's called a value pack canvas, and it's available at Michael's. And the value pack canvases usually come 7 to 10 to a pack, and they're going to look a little something like this, where they have the stapled back edges. And when you're looking at the weft or the weave of the canvas, that's going to be like the thickness or the weight of the canvas, right? So the higher the weight, and you'll see when canvases are sold in rolls or whatever, if you're looking online, if you're stretching your own canvases, you'll see higher weights. It's very equivalent to papers that are sold in different weights at a copy store. They call them reams or bond or pound paper, and obviously everything from a flimsy sheet of paper to a set of cardstock. So this is like your flimsy sheet of paper. It's not super durable, and in fact it can tear a lot. I've had a few students that have had canvases tear very easily. This is one that I purposely cut out. It was an old painting and that somebody was studying on and left behind and abandoned, so it was okay to do that. But if you look and listen, you see it's a very flimsy piece of material, but it's great for the student who's learning and doesn't want to invest a lot in materials. But this again is the value pack canvas, and there is a separate video that I've done on my YouTube channel that shows you how to patch a canvas that's been torn, and that's where this piece came from. Is that it'll show you how to fix a canvas if you do have a tear in one of the lower substrates. So a lot of people may be asking themselves the questions like, well, how would I know when to change? How would I know when to buy higher quality things? My advice to you is that if you're taking a weekly class and you're just studying, or if you're just trying to practice at home, for me personally, I don't see the need to exhaust a lot of resources to do that. I could study on pieces of cardboard that I get from the grocery store that I gesso over, because it's more about the studying. But of course, in the beginning, a newcomer or a person just getting started may not have the comfort level at really absorbing that and feeling confident about the fact that the art is just about practicing. What I have learned to do, which is not what I've always done, is that I've learned to do a series of practicing on a particular media or subject, and then I take all that accumulated data and experience and I channel it into a higher quality piece. So I do a series of studies, and then I take what I've learned and I put it into a bigger piece, and then over time I can work out a series within that realm and then show that. But of course that took a lot of time before I got there. So there is the value pack, and then the next level they have at Michael's. They have what are often categorized in like level 1, level 2, level 3 canvases. So a level 1 canvas, which I don't really have here accessible, but they have blue labels on them. And they are essentially the exact same thing as the value pack, which is here, but it's a heavier duty canvas. So it's a little bit heavier weave and weft of the canvas that makes it a little bit more durable. It's still stapled on the back like this, but it is like a small step up from what this value pack is. Okay. Then there's the level 2 canvas. The level 2 canvas, which this is a black canvas, but it has a red label here. So level 1 will have the blue label, and level 2 has the red label. Level 2 is still the heavier weft canvas, but it's got more of a finished look. So you can see on the back how it's tucked and stapled. It's a better presentation. So if I were doing a commission for the first time, or if I were doing a piece that I was going to submit into a higher content competition or gallery, I would probably start purchasing these. And you can get them when they're on sale, or you can look for other brands that are sold at art stores, like real, art supply stores like Dick Blick, Binders, Sam Flax, Jerry's, and you can find the same kind of attributes, but just kind of look for them within the brands. But again, I'm talking about the two stores that are just most accessible to us here locally. So in looking at the level 2, you can look for that finished back, and that would help you out with a little bit heavier duty canvas. So next is the level 3 canvas, and the level 3 has the green label on it. And unfortunately, all the level 3 canvases have this thick contemporary side. It's called cradling, and this is a little bit more than an inch worth of cradling here on this canvas. And it's going to give you more of that contemporary look. You could put it in a frame, but there's going to be a lot of protrusion off the wall if you put it into that frame, meaning that the frame will only come down about 1/4 inch on the canvas, and then you'll have canvas sticking out from the wall when you look at it from the side. But the advantage to these is that oftentimes people will just paint the edges and it does not have to be framed. Now, gallery wrapped, all of these are gallery wrapped, which means that they are wrapped around the back and secured, right? So old-timey canvases, they really don't do this anymore, but they used to put them on the side and it would curl, and you could always see the staples on the side. So gallery wrap really includes anything that can be wrapped all the way around the canvas, and the purpose of that is to display on the wall without a frame. Although I don't recommend not framing these types of canvases. If they're this thin, I always frame them myself. That's just what I prefer to do. But I don't ever frame the gallery wrapped thicker canvases. So usually when I talk about a gallery wrapped canvas, I'm referring to one that is thicker and that does not need a frame, even though technically all of these are gallery wrapped. So those are your choices, level 1, 2, and 3. And again, the weft is much heavier. You're going to have a lot less likely to bust through this canvas because it's so heavy. And I have a piece of duct canvas here. So duct canvas, it's a cotton canvas weave. This is very heavy. This is if I was going to stretch my own canvas. But you can see how durable this is. It's a very high quality canvas, and it's going to be more, it's going to equate out more with the level 3 canvas. That's kind of the quality that you're getting close. And depending on how long you want something to last or how durable, especially with transportation. I mean, I can't tell you how many people have punctured canvases because they were working on the level 1s or the value pack canvases, so that can be kind of problematic over time too. So perhaps also you may not be wanting to work on a canvas. Maybe you're wanting to do mixed media, collaging, or maybe you just want to see more of the brushwork, and so maybe you'd want a panel. So with the panels, I got some of these at Cheap Joe's when I was up in the mountains, and I like them. It's a panel, so it's a hard substrate, a rigid substrate is what it's called, which means that it's not flexible, right? It doesn't move. When I go to put brush strokes on a canvas, the canvas undulates, and so that affects the brushwork, right? Because I'm getting resistance on the canvas. With a rigid substrate, you're not. The brush strokes are showing up, they're hitting the canvas, so it allows that brushwork to come through. Now this particular brand, this panel is very thin. It's very on par with the value pack canvas. It's great to practice on if I'm moving through some mixed media techniques, but I wouldn't want to put any commissions or anything on it. I did have a piece that split here, but fortunately there was some material on it, some golden mediums and other things that covered it, and so it wasn't a big deal. But these are more of my practice. I'm going to run through and cycle and practice, and then I'm going to buy something higher quality to do any work on myself. I did find a little bit higher quality panel. This was available at Sam Flax, and I like it because it is a lot more durable. I don't feel like it would split or crack at all. And it does have the rigid, and they'd already primed them in different tones. So there were some that were gray, some that were earth toned. Excellent deal on these. I got a really great deal, so I got a bunch of them. Then they're at Hobby Lobby. They have also wood panels that are called like Wood Pile is the name of the brand, and they're pretty decent. They're pretty thick. I don't feel like they're going to split at all, and it's really great, easy way to practice. They've already got hanging. I don't recommend sawtooths at all. I always end up putting different wiring on it. Sawtooth is this little protrusion that comes off that kind of clips on a nail, but oftentimes, as somebody that hangs art, often you can't hang these on a lot of the display racks. But anyway, it is a good firm surface, and if you're practicing, you can get it locally and even use a coupon on it as well. Then there is something that is like a flat panel, and this is put out by Ampersand. It's a flat Masonite panel, and it is a perfect substrate for getting that rigidity, but also it's not cradled or pulled out at all, so it's very hard to hang on a wall. There's nothing to affix it, so if I don't put it in a frame, it's going to be very hard to display this, but it's the least expensive way to get the highest quality surface to practice on. And so if you have an open back frame, which I have one here, an open back frame is anything that comes without glass, which means that you can just put a canvas or a panel in there. And with these open back frames, you can just drop the panel inside, and then there's a thing called a poinsettia which puts brads in here which affixes, and then you've got your framed piece of art. And so this is the least expensive way to do it if you're practicing, because you can work on the panels and then just easily frame them. And then just to give you an example too of the level 3, this obviously does not fit in here, but if I was to put this in a frame like so, you see how much of it is still sticking out. And so if that was hanging on the wall, it would be kind of awkward. But that's one reason why I do not frame those, although I have seen it done. And then, so going back to the hardboard panel, it's the least expensive way to do it, but by the time you purchase this and purchase a frame, you may have just invested in a cradled version of the panel. This is a value series, so again it's like a level 1 if we have like level 1, level 2, level 3 like other brands and companies do, which Ampersand does not. All of their materials are really good quality, but this is a little bit more economical for a student to practice on. And it is cradled, which means it has the recession off the wall, but you could frame this or you could actually hang it, and they actually make frames now that you can just drop these in. But it's a very reasonable way also to get started, but it does have the gallery wrap feature on it. Then also there's a heavier cradle. This is an aqua board, which is used with wet media, but it's got a thicker cradling on here. It's very substantial, and this would be for the person that wanted to do contemporary works. I would usually tape, because this is a high quality furniture type wood, so I would tape it to protect it so that I don't get paint or surfaces. There's no need to paint the edges. That's why they're done so beautifully, so that they can shine out on their own. And then I would just wire this and it's ready to hang. So the combined price of the substrate plus the framing, you know, yeah, I'm spending a little bit more, but I don't have to frame this at all. And the wonderful part about this is, if you're a watercolor or wet media artist, is that these are like watercolors that don't have to be under glass, because how often do we do watercolors and then it's so frustrating that you have the glass and the studio lighting shines on, so you're like bobbing and weaving trying to look at the work. So I like this because there's no glare or anything when it's put on here. You don't have to put it under glass, and you can visibly see the watercolor or the wet media work. Okay, so there's one more small thing, is a panel. So this is, if you are looking for an art panel, this is put out by Friedrichs. Friedrichs is a company that I like a lot because of the weft that comes from it. Again, when I talk about weft, I'm dealing with the weave of the canvas, but there's some cheap, inexpensive versions of this that are put out by Artist Loft, but I don't recommend them as much because the weave of the canvas is really low quality. It's almost like threads glued to the board. And when you're working miniature and you've got a lot of weave in the canvas, you get what I call pixels, which are these little white dots that distract you from the artwork. And so if it's not a high smooth surface, then you'll get a lot of those pixels, and you have to continuously pile paint in them to cover them up. And the smaller you work, the harder it is because there's more pixels. So I like the Friedrichs because they use a higher weft on it, and so it seems easier to achieve that. And also, it seems manageable to be able to, get a lot of work done really quickly and inexpensively. So they also sell them in a canvas pad that's sold at Hobby Lobby. It has a yellow cover on it, and you can use a coupon on it. It's very supple. It's canvas that's just kind of loose. It's not on a rigid surface like this, and you can cut them to size and just tape them on a backboard and work that way, and it works really well. So that's another option. And then I have some handheld ones here from Ampersand too, depending on the media. There's Encaustic Board, which if you're unfamiliar with Encaustic, that is just a art technique that has a series of hot wax that actually encases the media in between layers of hot wax. They also have Aqua Board, which I just showed you with the wet media. They have Scratch Board, which is a black board, and when you scratch into it, white is revealed, so it's kind of like equivalent of printmaking if you're doing etching or subtraction method. And then there's a pastel board, which is for drawing surfaces, whether you're doing chalk pastel or charcoal. And what I'm going to do in the upcoming video that I'm doing is actually gesso board, and it's just a primed surface, and it's got that rigid surface. So I'm actually going to be generating another video on how to do a portrait with the gesso board today. So that's just a brief overview. Again, we're just talking about painting substrates, and we're just talking about where they can locally be found, where I'm here in Macon, Georgia, or if you have limited art stores that are near you. And a lot of this language pertains to students that I teach. So again, take what you need and leave the rest. You always want to pick, in my opinion, you always want to pick somebody who is doing or performing what you want, and you want to take those guidelines. So if you are already studying under somebody or working under somebody, then take information back to them and see what works in alignment with their teachings, and find what's right for you. But this is just information that I found works for me, and I enjoyed sharing it with you. If you like what you've seen, you can subscribe to the videos on the YouTube channel. You can also find a blog or more information on classes and things that are going on my website, which is www.micahgoguen.com, which is MICAHGOGUEN.com, or you can find the Facebook page Micah Goguen Art. All right, thanks. Have a good day.